Cochran, and with me are Eddy Webb.
Hello.
And Matthew Dawkins.
Hi, konnichiwa.
No, that was terrible pronunciation.
Hi, konnichiwa. You know, we're trying to appeal to a more international audience, and because it is daytime here, I'm not going to say konbanwa. So I was told when I was studying Japanese that I speak Japanese with a Hokkaido accent.
You didn't even say Hokkaido correctly. So
exactly.
Sure.
It's been a long time. It's been a long time. I know you take this a lot more seriously than I do, Dixie, but allow me my moment.
I don't take it seriously. I just took the language for 5 years. I'm not fluent either. Anyway, now that we've already
I'm starting right off with pissing some people off. This is great.
We've been derailed in the first minute of the podcast. If you're listening to this on the day it drops or the day after it drops, we are at Gen Con.
Yay!
Woo! Gen Con. I think I am one of the few people in the industry, from what my Facebook feed tells me, that is incredibly excited about it. I love Gen Con.
Oh,
I get to
we
see all
all
my
love
friends. I get to hang out, play war games. I'm just not stressed like everybody else is. I don't know. I'm like, I'll show up, I'll have clothes and makeup, and I'll be fine.
Well, I tell you, there's exactly one reason why you're way more excited about this than a lot of industry people are. It's because you're an extrovert.
Oh, true. But yeah, so we're at Gen Con right now. We're going to pretend like we're recording from Gen Con. No, we're not. That would take way too long, and we could not give it that illusion.
Also, we are going to be recording from Gen Con while we're there.
Yeah, and then we don't have to pretend.
This is very confusing now. I feel like I've fallen through a temporal anomaly. No, we have clearly not. We're not recording at Gen Con because there's not enough background noise, and the food and we aren't dashing out to get food from the food trucks, which are fantastic at Gen Con.
If there was a food truck outside, I would dash out and get food, though.
Yeah,
that's true.
They are possibly my favourite part of Gen Con. Obviously the games are good as well, and seeing all of you is pretty.
You travel
nice.
overseas just for the food trucks,
but the Matthew, red velvet cupcakes are pleasant as well.
Has anybody linked you the Excel spreadsheet of the food trucks? Because I have that. If you need
I was sent it actually by another company I'm working for.
Nice. All right.
I don't have it.
Okay, I'll send you the food truck schedule.
I won't pay attention to it. But anyway, yeah, sorry.
So because we are at Gen Con, because it's Gen Con weekend, it's currently, as we're recording, it's pretty much Gen Con Eve, I guess. Yes. We are going to talk about conventions today. We're going to talk about kind of our experience with various conventions and going as a professional versus going as a fan. So it should be fun. So let's start with Matthew. Tell us kind of your convention background. When did you start going? What do you like about them? You know, the basics.
Well, it was many, many years ago, in the winter of our time. And my first convention was the UK Games Expo, when it first started, the very first UK Games Expo, somewhere around 2007 or 8, I believe, up in Birmingham.
2008 was the winter of our time. All right, anyway.
It was for me. It was a very, very, very low point in my life. No, actually it was, but that's a story for another day. That isn't why I went to UK Games Expo. I went to UK Games Expo because I was an avid role player, and still am, and found out about this lovely big role-playing and board gaming convention that was running up in the Midlands of England, Britain, and so I attended. It was fantastic. It was run out of an old Masonic lodge. And so there was lots of interesting art and all these imposing chairs, thrones, and medallions and things hanging on the wall.
I say, I have the feeling that a British Masonic lodge looks way cooler than an American one, because I went to my uncle's lodge at one point and it just looked like a rec room. Like it was just a boring white building.
Yeah. We didn't get to go into the room with the sort of checkered floor, the black and the white. But I wanted to go up there with my role-playing club, because I'd been playing with the same people for several years, and I told all of them before the expo was due to run, hey, why don't we all have a road trip? Go up, play some new games, pick up some new games. And they stared at me as if I was a lunatic, because these were people that just liked to play the same games week in, week out, year in, year out, play with the same people. And that was a shame to me. It was part of the reason I loved role-playing, was getting to meet lots of new people and play lots of new games. So in the end, I went up by myself, and honestly, I had a fantastic experience as a result of that. I played a couple of new games. I played a game of Slay Industries up there, which has always been one of my favourite settings.
Yeah.
Even if the rules aren't very good, but
No.
we can't lamp on Dave Allsop too much about that. The game's fairly old now, despite the...
It was very 90s in both background and design.
Yes, and in that design, it's wonderful. The core book, the source books, things like I think one of the latest source books, the Hunter Sheets and Cannibal Sector 1, which came out, I guess, within the last 10 years, are amazing quality, but it's a game that thirsts for a second edition that has been promised to us for, I guess, 20 years now. And we're still waiting. But on the subject of Slay Industries, if you haven't checked out the Cannibal Sector skirmish game, if you're into your miniatures games, I strongly recommend it. The miniatures are beautiful, the rules are simple and elegant. If you like games like Malifaux and so on, and Infinity, it's a brilliant game to check out if you love a bit of punk and horror. But anyway, so I attended Expo, played some games, bought a hell of a lot of books, and came back home, and that was my first experience of a gaming convention, and it got me hooked to attending as many as I can throughout the year.
That's awesome. Yeah, I started out with really big cons, and that was always a problem for me, because when I started realizing that most conventions weren't that big, that was weird. I kind of wish I started with like a smaller local convention, or one that was growing, like UK Games Expo has continued to grow.
Have you been to many game conventions, Dixie?
Not really. Mostly in the past year since I started working more closely with Onyx Path. No, I didn't really do gaming conventions before then too much. I went to conventions where there were games as part of it, but not
gaming track,
not gaming specific conventions.
I'm curious because I started off with gaming conventions. I mean, so do you see a change in the dynamic, the flavor, the organization, whatever, between a convention that happens to have a gaming track versus a gaming centric convention?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot of differences. Gaming centric conventions, obviously, you know what you're getting at most of the booths in there. It's mostly going to be people selling their games or game accessories. A lot more industry professionals, a lot less cosplay. There's a lot of the even the parties are very different, because a lot of them seem to be for, networking, whereas at Dragon Con, for instance, all the parties are just dance parties for the most part.
That's fair.
So like, I'll just go next. Usually I was going to go with you, Eddy, but I'll just go next since I'm already talking about it. So my first convention was Dragon Con in '99, which, like, if you haven't been to Dragon Con, it's huge. It's ludicrously big. It's in downtown Atlanta. It now spans like 5 hotels and the convention center. It used to just span a couple of hotels and a little convention center area.
And it's still packed.
And it's packed. I mean, it's gotten better the more they've like moved stuff around. Like now that the dealer hall and the gaming stuff is all in America's Mart, it's made the hotels a little bit less like just ridiculous. Also, the hotels only let in people with room keys or badges at night now. Which makes it so there aren't just like gawkers standing around drinking beer and making fun of people, which actually used to be a thing. But anyway, so I started out with Dragon Con, and even in '99, it was a big convention. So then when I came back home and was like, oh, I like conventions, it's a thing that I enjoy, I'm going to go to Animazement, which is a local like Raleigh anime convention. I was really disappointed the first few times I went to other cons, and I was like, really? This is it? Like, this is nothing. Which is totally, I mean, it's one of those things when you first experience something in giant, ridiculous glory. If your first LARP was Convention of Thorns, and then you went to almost any other LARP, you would be a little bit let down.
Yes.
Because you'd be like, oh, it's not in a castle, and the costuming isn't all out. And,
Yeah, I had something similar with, because I'm the master of tangents, with the
I love tangents.
Yeah, New York Comic Con was my first comics convention. And I attended there in 2008 or 2009. And that was a time when I was really in love with DC Comics. Absolutely loved them. I probably picked up every comic that was being released at that time every week. And and I think a large part of that was because I was doing a lot of DC Heroes role-playing. But I attended there. It was a wonderful time. Spent lots of money. Met lots of fantastic writers and artists. Went to some wonderful panels, and got to have personal chats with Jeff Johns and Dan DiDio and Jim Lee and all that when I snuck into my DC Universe Online secret party that we mentioned in the previous podcast. All of that.
Right.
And then after I came home, I thought, I'm really hyped up about this comics thing. When's the next convention in the UK? And it was in a place called Bristol City. And so I went to Bristol Comics Convention, which was in one hotel with a load of artists and writers I'd never heard of. DC and Marvel weren't present, and being such a mainstreamer, I had no idea what these other companies like IDW and Dark Horse were. And so I was just kind of standing around lost. I could see a load of people were really into all of these indie comics and having fantastic conversations with all of the guests, and I was sort of stood there avoiding all the booths, all the artists that wanted you just to come over and have a chat. I was thinking, I don't want to talk to you. I don't know who you are. I know. I've grown up a little since then, but it is quite possible to be spoiled too much too soon. But that said, now my experience is I prefer the smaller cons, smaller gaming conventions at any rate.
Well, that's the other thing with me too, is that because when I went to Dragon Con in '99, it was because my stepdad, my mom had started dating, and he does art at conventions. Like he does, various fandom art stuff, and so like I've also always gone as an exhibitor. I've never really, I've gone to conventions on my own as a fan, like as an adult. So my best friend Laura and I will go to New York Comic Con. I've been to a bunch of smaller cons now. But yeah, like I started out as an exhibitor. I had a guest badge at my first Dragon Con because they used to give guest badges to the artists. But now there's just so many artists that they're like, no. My stepdad gets a free badge, and I think he gets one extra one for my mom, but they used to give 2 extras. So it's like, I started out at Dragon Con with guest badges and stuff, and I was just like this weird like kid of an artist that, got to go. That I started going on my own when I was an adult, and still go to this day. Like this year, in about a month, will be my 20th Dragon Con.
Wow.
Well, I've made so many friends there over the years that it seems weird to not go at this point. Like that's where I see all these people that I never get to see throughout the year. So it's a really cool experience for me. Also, because my family lives in Atlanta, that's where I get to see my grandmother. Her birthday always falls on Dragon Con weekend. So it kind of works out because I take the Monday night and I go see my grandma, and I see my mom, my stepdad, and everybody that I don't see throughout the year. So yeah. So it's kind of a going home to see family trip, and kind of a let's see all your friends and party for the weekend trip. But Dragon Con's also a party con. So even though there is gaming, I've heard tell of people that go to Dragon Con and just play Magic the Gathering all weekend or play D&D all weekend. And I'm like, how do you do that? There's so much other stuff to look at. I definitely go for the dancing and my friends and just general hanging out and people watching. So yeah, that's cool. Eddie, what about you? What was your first convention?
I remember back that far. I think probably I think I'm in a similar boat to both of you in the sense that my first convention that I have a strong memory of was Origins. Because it was in Columbus, Ohio, and I lived in Northern Ohio most of my life. I lived in a city called Lorain. I went to school for a long time in Akron, Ohio, back to Lorain. So Columbus was a very 2-hour drive. And it was the only show I really knew of in the mid to late 80s or 90s. So for a long time, it was, okay, this is the show I go to. I read Dragon magazine, so I had references to Gen Con, but that was like the mecca. That was oh my God, someday I will eventually make it to Milwaukee and go to Gen Con.
You weren't even that far from Milwaukee where you were, like compared to where we all are now.
Well, yeah, true. I mean, it's like I'm actually further away from Milwaukee now than I was when I lived there. You're absolutely right. But I mean, so Origins is a huge con. I mean, it's again. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, but at the time it was probably 5-digit attendance.
Right.
But it was interesting. The reason why I asked about the kind of how those cons look different to you is because Origins, like most of the older gaming conventions, has strong wargaming roots and board game roots.
Right.
So Origins, there's always kind of a military vibe to the show. It's decreased in the past 15, 20 years, but when I went there, definitely there was a strong wargaming presence, a strong military presence. D&D was played relatively competitively. There were tournaments there. So it kind of shaped my perspective of the industry a little bit, particularly after I started getting involved with White Wolf games back in the early 90s, which were very jarring to the kind of default Origin aesthetic.
Everybody should have been black with their punk music and their weird stuff and their fangs.
And your weird, crazy cooperative games. What the hell is that?
What?
No, what were you saying?
I know. I was just saying what? Like
oh, sorry.
Like a reaction to what you were doing.
It's the fluid nature of our humor that keeps this podcast afloat.
I was doing it. Sorry,
it's just smooth and there's no stumbles whatsoever. But yeah, so I mean, and when I migrated to live action, particularly live action vampire, one of the things I was made pretty clear was that there wasn't a ton of interest in engaging with live action community. And in fact, where I lived, there was a city in Kentucky for a while. It may still be true, but for a while they had a law in the books saying you could not play Vampire the Masquerade on the streets, which was entertaining.
About that.
Yeah, and it was entertaining because at one point a police officer came up and said, "You guys play Vampire the Masquerade?" So no, we're playing Laws at Night. And they go, "Okay, cool, carry on."
Oh, you cheeky kids!
Here's the book. See, it says Laws at Night on it. It can't be Vampire the Masquerade, because we were punks. So there was a separation at the time. They got over it pretty quickly, but this was also during a time of the scare of the vampire murders, which is kind of a mini Satanic Panic after the 80s.
Yep.
A lot of very bad allegations and basically just rumors and whispering, but basically a guy who did some horrible things happened to have a Vampire the Masquerade book, and therefore a lot of people said, "Oh, well, Vampire the Masquerade causes people to kill people." And so when you have at the same time the rise of a group of people pretending to be vampires, people who weren't paying too close attention were like, "Yeah, you guys can stay over there." So a good chunk of my life after that was in live action conventions because we were in a separate silo for a while. And then that kind of just persisted, especially with the larger groups like One More by Night and the Camarilla. They just continued putting on their own conventions. And then over the years, live action got involved and everything calmed down. And now live action tracks are pretty common in bigger gaming conventions, and most gaming conventions, I would say.
Yeah.
So I had this kind of sidestep to a long time. And then by the time I got back into gaming conventions as a larger concept, I was professional at that point. So I had this kind of weird connection because I remember really loving it when I was there as an attendee. Experiencing some games. That's how I discovered Cyberpunk 2020. That's how I discovered White Wolf games, to be honest. Was going to conventions, looking at booths, playing these games with people I'd never met before. This was really, really exciting, but I didn't grow up with it. I kind of took a hard right and went a different direction. Then when I came back, I'm too inside of it to have that perspective anymore. So it's kind of a weird moment.
Yeah, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like most conventions these days can't focus on one thing. Like I have, like all the wargaming conventions I know about have expanded. Like LARP conventions have expanded. I mean, I went to TempleCon a couple years ago because my friend's band was playing there. And so my friend Laura and I go to this convention, not realizing it was actually a wargaming convention. And even while we were there, it was almost impossible to see the wargaming happening because it was in a separate location. But that was the big one or like one of the bigger ones for a long time, from what I understand. But now it just looks like a steampunk gothy convention if you don't go around the corner to where all the wargamers are.
Yeah, and I think that's true. And in particular, the only real silo that was for a long time was video games and analog games, for lack of a better term. But even that's blurring now with PAX has been increasing and blurring those lines, and then there's more video game presence at various times at Gen Con. So even that's blurred together. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it comes down to everyone's kind of realized, hey, this area is shrinking, although it's booming again. But at the time it was shrinking. So we kind of, all keep to work together a little bit. And, people are just more interested in trying new things. I think there are still the hardcores, people who are like, I only play Napoleonic miniature games. That's all I'll ever play. Or I only play Magic the Gathering. I have no interest in anything else. But the amount of people, at least I know, that do that I can count maybe one or two. Most everybody else is like, yeah, I play a little bit of this, and then we play, Cards Against Humanity, and then we, play Persona 5, and so you just more gaming polyglots than are isolos.
That's interesting. I don't know whether that's the same in the UK, because we do have plenty of, I guess, cross hobby conventions, but I guess if something is branded in a certain way, if you're going to be looking for a Warhammer convention, for instance, you are likely to only find Warhammer being played, and the same with Magic the Gathering. But I guess even within the role-playing conventions, I don't know how similar this is in the US, there will be some people that turn up just to play their Pathfinder Society games.
Oh, sure,
yeah, totally.
They won't play anything else. And that always makes for an interesting divide, because we assume we all go to the same bar, we all eat from the same truck, but there's very little cross-pollination, there's very little discussion, because they have no interest in playing our games and we have no interest in playing theirs. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of Pathfinder. I ran a very long campaign of it, and I love D&D as well, but when I go to a convention, I've got no interest in playing either of those games, because I can access them so easily outside of a convention.
Right.
But I think that's actually kind of proving your point, is the fact that talk about Pathfinder Society, talk about the D&D Adventurers Guild. There are people who show up to those because that's the reason why they're there. That doesn't mean that they don't have any knowledge of anything outside of that. It doesn't mean they're not interested in anything else of that. I ran into a guy last year at Gen Con, and he was talking to me about this great wrestling card game that he had discovered, and we were kind of chatting about that. And I was like, what are you playing here? He's like, oh, I'm only here to play Pathfinder. He's like, I come to these shows to play Pathfinder or to play D&D, but then I love to get other games and talk to the people and look at other cons or panels and whatnot. So, I mean, it makes it seems like at the shows is kind of siloed. And I think to a certain degree that's true, but also, especially at shows like Gen Con, you kind of have to have that in the sense that there's so much going on. There's so many things happening that you kind of have, okay, I of all of this stuff, I'm going to focus on this slice of it and turn that into its own kind of convention for me, if you will.
Yeah, I could see that. And I guess, to a similar degree, we're going there to work the Onyx Path booth, which means our experience of Gen Con is going to be similarly limited. But,
right.
Hopefully in a good way. I guess one thing that interests me, Eddy, is when you get to go to conventions, how often do you get to play and run games?
Almost never.
Yeah, that's a fun question. I've never played a game at a convention.
Wow.
Okay, let me finish my thought, but we are getting back to that one. Let me finish my thought first.
It's hard to find time.
No, we're going to have a talk about that. But first, before we do that, the last time I played a game at a con at all actually was Dragon Meat, where you ran some wonderful games. You and your friends ran some wonderful games for me, which was
thank you very much.
Really
there was nothing really.
I got to play Wraith, I got to play Time Stories, and what else did we play? I think it was just Wraith and Time Stories, wasn't it? No, we played D5 actually.
Yeah, how could you forget that?
Because the Vampire's kind of in the background radiation of my life, honestly. But before that, the only, I mean, actually, not that I'm thinking about it, it's more frequent than I realize, because there's a local show called AndoCon that I've been to a few years now, and it's tiny. It's like 300 people, but a lot of my friends go there, and it's a great con of sport. And also, specifically, the show is there to help budding designers, give them space to play test with people. So it's a very kind of playtest friendly convention. So I've run some early Pugmire there. I played Sentinels of the Multiverse for the first time at that show a few years back with my friend Sean Patrick Fannin. And then prior to that, I played a Sherlock Holmes card game with Dave Brookshaw because I'd gotten it at the show of Gen Con, and I had a couple hours to kill, so we just found some space on the floor in a hotel and played the game.
That's fun.
So, I mean, but scheduled events that are meant to be played at that show, very rarely, because especially these days, when I go to the show, I'm there to work. And so I've got to defer to business, and finding a 3 to 4 hour block that also lines up to the existing schedule and also has something I want to play is very remote. So I'm much more likely to do, like I just mentioned, it's like, oh, hey, we have a few hours. Oh, hey, I have a game in my bag. Let's play that. Or, hey, I have this game I really want to show you, so let's make some time to show it, to at least give it a try. Or like Dragon Meat, where specifically we were getting there specifically to kind of game in a space to play games with a certain group of people. Mm-hmm. So all of that is much more common to me from a professional side, but actually from I have bought tickets to play in this event. Unless I'm running it, I almost never am involved in that. But you've never played a game at all at a show, Dixie? Like, ever? I
mean, I did a LARP at Midwinter this past year, but it was the 1920s kind of LARP.
Right. Right. That counts.
So, I mean, it was kind of, but it doesn't feel like it was playing a game. Like, I don't know. It was so, like, loose as far as not being super, like, rules heavy. There weren't a lot of fights or anything. It was also my first LARP, really, that I've done, like, in a long time. Mm-hmm. So it didn't feel like a game to me. It felt like just kind of hanging out and playing pretend.
And throwing water in Neil's face.
I didn't get to do that. That was, like,
no,
three
who
other
did
people.
That? 3 other people?
Oh yeah. Neil got a drink thrown in his face, I think twice, and then somebody else got a drink thrown in their face. It was fun. I don't know, but no, but like I've never sat down and played a role playing character. Like that's the thing about that LARP specifically. Like I didn't have a character sheet. I didn't have stats. It didn't feel like a game to me.
Okay,
that kind of LARP does not feel like a game to me.
So it's accurate to say you have not engaged in a game-like experience at a convention.
Yeah,
because I would argue that was a game, but also that gets into probably an entire podcast episode's worth of what is a game and the debates and how you draw those lines and how different people qualify.
Yeah, that's a whole different conversation. All I can say is that to me, since there wasn't a storyteller or a GM, there wasn't, any like actual stats or roles or anything happening that needed anything. It was just talking to people.
It was just improv.
In a dress, yeah.
So why don't you... What's wrong with you? No, why don't you play tabletop games at conventions? Is there no appeal?
No, there's a lot of appeal. I really enjoy it. But for me, it's that... So Dragon Con, it's a matter of not wanting to take that much time out of my day. Because I tend to have pretty, like, bad FOMO sometimes, the fear of missing out. Where it's like, if I go devote this 4 to 6 hour block of time to playing D&D, I'm going to come back and all my friends are going to have 8 million stories about all the cool stuff they were doing. And it's like, I don't like committing myself to that long of a block of time for anything at like Dragon Con. Smaller con wise, even let's go ahead and say Gen Con. I did not get my schedule for the booth until like a week ago. And so I couldn't sign up for anything. Once I got my schedule, I actually went and looked at the sign-ups. Most of the stuff that I wanted to play was sold out. So, or it was super late at night or super early in the morning, because that's pretty much when I'm available. And I don't want to block out from 8 p.m. to midnight to play a game when I'd rather be socializing with my coworkers and friends I never see. So
that's a very great point.
That's what always happens. Is like, if I had a full day off at Gen Con or any other convention, which is not going to happen when we're working, then I would totally go sit down and play a game. And even at the booth, I mean, people have said they might let me sit at the demo table and at least play one of our games that I haven't played before. So hopefully that'll happen. But if not, then I hope all the fans fill up the demo tables, because that's what I'd rather be happening.
Well, you'd be more than welcome to play They Came From Beneath the Sea when I'm running it.
Yeah, see? But at the same time, it's just a matter of timing and having to work. That's the big thing, is that every gaming convention I've been to has been in the past year or so. And that's always been a working convention for me.
Right.
Especially last year, we had one of our booth staff have a medical emergency, and I took over a lot of her duties.
Yeah.
So I ended up working way more last Gen Con than I was scheduled to. I was only scheduled like 2 to 4 hours every day. I think I had a day off because I was a new person for the booth. But then once the emergency happened, I ended up having to take over a lot of time in the booth. So I was just there all day most days. PAX Unplugged, we only took like 2 people to work the booth, really. So I was there all day, every day. And then Midwinter, I just didn't know my badge, didn't have a schedule. So it was hard to, schedule when you're going to play if you don't know when you need to work.
Right.
Well, I'm now going to be the complete opposite of the two of you, because while I go to a few conventions, not many. I've got plenty of friends that go to a lot more, but I like to go to some of the smaller conventions in the UK, and they have one of the best ones used to be a convention that was called Conception, and of course, very, very, very funny. 9 months later, you would have Consequences. You see, Conception and Consequences. But anyway, and there was IndieCon at the same location. There's Contingency now because Conception ended. People stopped running it. But when I go to those conventions, I do nothing but play games. Because they're small, it's not a business trip for me. So I'll go to those cons, and quite often I will indulge in lodge games. So I think this is something that may be uniquely British, or at least European, that a lot of the smaller conventions in the UK are based in caravan parks, which are holiday places in the UK. And so you will go to one of these conventions. There'll be a main hall, a main function area where there'll be some trade stalls and some games being run. But a lot of the games will be run out of the lodges that people are staying in, which will be like chalets, but fairly large enough to accommodate 6 or 7 people at a time. And so
for the American audience, we're going to say cabins.
Aha, yes, that's the word I was looking for. So you go back to these cabins, and you can end up playing games that last all day. They could be 3-parters that run on Friday morning, Saturday morning, and Sunday morning, or any other period of the day. It allows you to play a lengthy story arc with the same people. Sometimes, though, for instance, I think it was Contingency earlier this year I attended, and I played a game of Shadowrun Anarchy that ran on consecutive mornings. And they were 3 to 4 hour sessions each time, but there was a rotating cast of players. I think I was the only person that was in it for every single session as the same character. So it was just me and the same GM throughout. And obviously we were both doing something to offend the other players because they weren't turning up each time. But the point is, I really enjoy the opportunity to go to conventions and play new games, because nowadays my main gaming comes through playing with friends at their house, which is lovely, but does restrict the amount I can play. Also, before I became a father, I guess before even I got married, and before I got this job, I probably had a lot more free time on my hands to just play lots more games casually with friends. Now, because it's more of a fixture, going to a convention is a chance to just splurge on as many games as I possibly can that I wouldn't normally get an opportunity to indulge in. So that's where I get to play indie games like Monster Hearts or Night Witches, or just a simple game of Fiasco. Because if we're playing a lengthy campaign at home, we're not going to be doing that. So I really enjoy conventions, and it's one of those things that I mentioned earlier, the gaming club that I used to attend. The players there were always very reticent about attending conventions, and that always made me feel a bit sad, because I always had this feeling that this hobby of ours, this industry of ours, will only grow if the players start getting to know each other, if they start getting to experiment with different games and broaden their horizons. And that it wasn't my place to make people do that, but I always felt that way. And I always felt also that the club I attended would eventually just die off because they were just playing the same games with the same people. So going to conventions like this, and I guess this is my public service announcement to the listener, if you haven't attended a convention and you don't, of course, it's quite possible you may be unable to attend a convention due to distance or any other issue. But if you can, I certainly recommend doing so, because you can get to meet lots of lovely people, and even if you're not an extrovert, you can play some games where you have no obligation to ever speak to those people again. If you're playing a one-shot of, for instance, I ran Wraith the Oblivion at UK Games Expo this year. I played with a bunch of players, excluding one who I'd played with before. I played with a bunch of players who I've never met before, and I may well never meet again. But several years prior to that, I ran a game of Hunter the Vigil, and it was a slasher game. It was very mundane in its horror, but a pretty shocking game. Now, I ran it. It was a successful game. I felt happy at the end of it, and that was it. I never had any contact with any of the players after that. UK Games Expo has a system where you put your game on the website a couple of months before the show so people can sign up for it. You don't see who is signing up for it. You can't see their names. You just see how many players you've got. So I attended the following year running Hunter the Vigil again, and I decided I'll keep playing with my own mini universe. I'll do a sequel just for my benefit to the previous game. And amazingly to me, excluding maybe one, it was the exact same group of players from the year before, because they enjoyed the characters and the story so much that without any coordination between them, they wanted to see whether Hunter the Vigil was being run again by the same guy. And that was, of course, incredibly heartening to me. It made me feel like an excellent storyteller and all that good stuff. But it was lovely to see a game drawing people together who had no means of contact. We didn't exchange email addresses or telephone numbers after that first game. We just all came together and played it, to the point that in the end, after the second one, we did exchange information and actually arranged the third and final part of that Hunter saga the year after. So we did a 3-part Hunter game across 3 years with broadly the same players each time. And that was wonderful. That's one of those things that I feel role-playing is spectacular at achieving. You can be from any walk of life, any city in the country or across the globe, and it's that imaginative experience that draws you together. And then if you want, you can just forget it immediately after, or you can reminisce and try and play it again whenever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I do agree that the running a game for a convention and even playing in a game for a convention is a slightly different experience than playing with the same group at home or whatever. The kind of one-shot, or in your case, connected one-shot design gives itself a slightly different heft. And also it allows for people to try things and do things that they wouldn't feel comfortable doing in a more established long-term chronicle.
Right.
They can take risks, they can try new characters, and also if their character dies, there's very little consequence because everyone else is going to wrap up in an hour after you're done anyway, so it's not a big thing as opposed to, I have to make a new character and make new time.
Yeah, for all that I haven't played at conventions, there is an event in Connecticut where I just moved from, and if anybody's local to that area, whether it's Connecticut or Rhode Island, you should definitely check this out. It's called Drinking and Dragons. Drinking and Dragons is like it's quarterly. I think the next one is in like 2 weeks. And it's just a bunch of one-shot tables. We used to have it in bars until, honestly, the thing got too big for most local bars to accommodate us. Mm-hmm. So now we hire out like this rec room science center thing from one of the colleges nearby that has a ton of little rooms. And it's BYOB, bring your own food. I mean, people have had ridiculously good food and stuff there. People decorate their rooms sometimes, but that's where I've been trying out new games for the past little bit, because every time that I would sign up for one over the past couple of years I've been doing it, I've always tried to sign up for a game I haven't played before and with GMs or storytellers that I haven't played with before. So like that's where I got to play Call of Cthulhu for the first time. That's where I got to play Monster Hearts for the first time, and that's where I got to play some of the newer Shadowrun stuff for the first time. So yeah, like that's been my like best way to explore new games. But you're absolutely right in the fact that when you're playing in a one shot, like I make very different character decisions than if I'm going to have to be playing somebody for a very long time.
Right.
I'm more comfortable playing well outside of the box, or just a character that I wouldn't usually go with.
Mm-hmm.
If I know I'm only going to have to be committed to this character for 5 or 6 hours. So
right, yeah, and that's actually one of the things when I'm designing convention adventures. There's two kind of rough levels of thinking. One is like if I'm demoing the game, it's like whether even if it's a 4-hour game. On some level, if my goal is to make sure people are excited about the game and want to play the game. There's a certain kind of, we have to make sure that they see enough of the setting to be compelled by it, that, they engage with the mechanics enough to get a sense of it. There's a lot of, for me, game design decisions that go into that structure that aren't the same as for I'm running it just for fun. And actually there's a third one, which is playtesting, but that's a separate issue, so I'm not really counting that, because playtesting is very specific about a very specific design goal. But now I want to have people have fun because I want them to like the game, versus I want to have fun because it's fun. And Midwinter is actually a good example. For the past few years, I've been primarily doing some form of demo, which is like, here's a Pugmire adventure, here's a Mao adventure, get people excited about those games.
Right.
But prior to that, when I was heavily involved with V20, this is a convention, Midwinter in Milwaukee, for those who know, started as a one by night LARP convention. It's grown up. They're intentionally trying to kind of recapture some of the magic of the Milwaukee Gen Con. It's a fantastic show. I always have a great time there.
It's really nice. It's in like an Art Deco hotel, so the atmosphere is really, really cool.
Yeah.
It is
most
in
everyone
January,
knows everybody.
And it's freaking cold. That's my only issue with Midwinter.
Sure.
It is
you're
really
going
cold.
to Milwaukee in January, but for people who are crazy enough to do that, generally get to know each other pretty fast.
Yeah, no, it was really fun this past year. That was probably my favorite convention experience from this past year, just because
Absolutely.
it was so intimate.
And I'll be going next year.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, so this is a group of people who primarily are Vampire the Masquerade LARPers. And so trying to sell them on V20 wasn't really an option. And I wanted to give them something that they didn't experience before. So instead I ran a Giovanni game. And in the sense that it was Giovanni family, not the Giovanni clan. So most of the characters were Giovanni. There were a couple of, minor families in there. And then there was friends of the family. There was a bloodline. There was a Semite who just kind of was like the bastard cousin that no one talked about. And then there was the werewolf. The guy who was born Giovanni was about to be embraced and then turned out to be a Black Spiral dancer. And they're like, wait, we get to play a werewolf? And that's things that they never experienced that before. And it was set in the 20s. And it involved this machine made of glass plates that allowed them to summon ethereal spirits, and now it's being corrupted and all sorts of bonkers stuff. And that's a very different design experience. And it was interesting to me as someone putting this adventure together. It's like, okay, how can I give someone fun 4 hours that they'll talk about? The fact that you are in this space, this kind of liminal space, seems to help to make certain decisions, and also as you're playing them, you're making, like you say, make different decisions than you would normally.
Right. Yeah, no, it's definitely, like I said, it's very different doing some kind of one shot. So I'm gonna flip over real quick. Let us talk a little bit about kind of us as a company going to a convention for the last little bit that we have here. So Eddy, what do you think the main differences are between attending just as an individual, even a professional individual, and attending as somebody that has a company to represent and a booth to run and things like that? Because I feel like you've probably done more of both.
So for me, it's actually been, like I said, I mean, I've had a couple shows as a personal, but usually I'm going as a professional.
Do you say as a person? Like, do you usually not go as a person?
yeah. Sometimes I go as a thought cloud,
a void, or as a void of energy. The meandering thoughts of an elder god. Sorry, carry on.
All hail the glow cloud.
All hail the glow cloud. No, but as a professional, there's a couple things that some of which I've learned through sadly hard experience. A lot of it is socialization. I mean, you're there to work, but it's if this were a industry that had a more professional veneer, more of a distinction, like this is the kind of place where you go to business conventions in a suit and tie or in business casual. I think there'd be more separation, but because there isn't, it's harder sometimes. But you have to remember that the same things happen. Even if I'm wearing a humorous T-shirt and jeans and sneakers or whatever, I still have to comport myself as a professional. And so the kinds of rules that you have to think about when you're going to a professional convention are same. So like, everyone's coming up to you, could be a potential customer. You have to give a certain amount of customer service to them within reason. If they're going to be jerks, you can deal with that as you will. But in general, if they're trying to be nice, you kind of be nice to them back. But also your time is limited, so you have to be careful to plan your time accordingly. You have to consider business over pleasure. You have to kind of, my friends want to go off and play a game, but I meet with the translator for half an hour, or I got to have a business lunch with somebody. And sometimes you're having those meetings to not for a specific business aim, but to reinforce a certain relationship. Mm-hmm. So like when I walk the booth, when I walk the dealer's hall, odds are I'm generally going to hit, if I can hit places that have stuff that I want to see, I try to, but in general, I'm trying to hit past or future clients. And connect with them. It's like, I'll swing by the Meta Arcade booth. I don't work for them and say, hey, how you guys doing? And, I'm going to swing by Savage Worlds guys and say hi to them because I want to stay in their memory. Oh, yeah, Eddy's around. He stopped by, and so maybe he's still interested in working with us. So you have to constantly be thinking about that. And one thing that's tricky about that, and I think it's worth kind of going into a bit, is that the tabletop industry, most creative industries in my experience, but particularly tabletop industry, is a drinking culture. And that can be frustrating and problematic at times. There are certainly, I have had too much to drink and potentially made a jerk of myself in front of potential or actual clients.
I think almost everybody that I know in the industry has that story.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Whether, from me to Matthew to you to also just almost every freelancer that I know and everyone and I have seen other people doing that. I'm not gonna name any names, but people from other companies, I've been like, oh, that person's making a jerk of themselves right now. But I also think that we tend to be forgiving of it as long as it's not a pattern.
Yes.
I think that most people in the industry tend to realize okay, that person had too much to drink. Let's maybe make them go to bed. And then so as long as it's not happening at every single convention you go to or every single night at a convention, it's like, oh, there's so-and-so drunk again, you're probably okay.
Right. And that's the thing, and that's why it's kind of tricky, is because I started doing this a couple of years ago. I did it explicitly last year. I'm doing it again this year, which is I'm just not drinking at the show. Last year I drank very little, and I found I had better experience, and then this year I drank it all. Another thing that kind of comes with that is that there's this kind of math you have to do of, hey, all of these, my friends or peers or business partners or whatever, going out to have a drink or go to a party or whatever and staying out late, and I have to be up at 8 a.m. to have breakfast, then go to the booth. Where do I sleep in there? And again, as I gotten older, I have prioritized my sleep, because I have found that if I actually get 8 hours of sleep, if I don't drink heavily, and if I eat decently, if not great, I don't have con plague when I get back.
That's the thing no one ever really seems to give much thought to, isn't it? Because everyone is aware that con plague is a thing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people will put it down to the number of guests, which is of course a likely catalyst for people coming down with illness. But lowering your immune system by drinking copious amounts of alcohol and eating a lot of crap is also going to not help you a great deal. And exhaustion is a fine way to get a cold, especially when you follow it up with a plane journey.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
and that's something I've just learned from a lot of traveling and doing these shows, is that because this freelance gig is my primary job, I have to look at it from the business perspective. It's like, is going out and having these drinks going to push my business far enough that it will justify me having to lose a day of work when I get back.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right. So, I mean, it's tricky, but not everyone's in that place. I mean, there are people who, a lot of people who freelance kind of nights and weekends, and to them, this is their main social outlet. And so they want to go out and hang out with friends because they don't get to see them very often. And that's grand. You know, if this is their one show a year, I'm not telling people not to do that. But that's the kind of calculus you have to do that you don't necessarily think of when you're just attending. When you're just attending, it's like, this is my vacation. I'm here to have a good time. I will do whatever it takes. And I'm okay with taking an extra day off because that's part of the fun of the vacation is to, okay, I'm going to take a day to recover from that before I go back into my work or normal life. Mm-hmm. But when you are a business professional, this stuff gets out. People are going to post about it if it's negative on RPG, not if you were a jerk. If you're a drunk jerk, if you are sick and you come back to a ton of work, that work still needs to be done. So it's a lot of, and each show's different, but it's a lot of things you have to take in mind. And it doesn't always come immediately. Like you said, everyone's got their story. And usually those stories are from earlier in their career. There are certainly a handful of people in this industry who are bad actors who just continue to be problems. But that's
every industry.
Exactly. That's not just this industry. It's every workplace has jerks. Every industry has jerks. So, I mean, those are kinds of things that I think about when I go to shows is what am I projecting? What are people taking away from that? And also, how can I marathon this as opposed to sprint? It's like, okay, I need to, I talked to a ton of people today, so I need to go back to my home for a couple hours and recover my social energy a bit before I go back out. Because otherwise I'm going to be snippy and short with people the next day because I'm out of social energy, all the things that I kind of have to think about. Whereas again, if you're going there just a game, you can say, I'm just going to have a nap for a few hours.
See, I have the exact opposite problem where I have the whole FOMO thing still. So I'll look at my schedule and be like, well, I have to be at the booth at, 9 a.m. And then I'll kind of be like, everybody's having fun. And it's really hard. It's very hard for me to tear myself away. Like if I'm in a conversation, if I'm around people that I don't see very often, I'm having a good time. People are inviting me to go places. Like I have a really hard time being like, no, I don't want to do the fun thing because I have to sleep because I'm an adult. So like I'm better about it now than I was when I was younger. But that's still something that I struggle with. Is kind of going like, no, I really can't, go to this party even though it sounds awesome because I should really be in bed by 1 a.m. at the latest,
Well, I mean, but I think that's kind of go back to my earlier point. I think that's something that's a valid consideration because as much as I'm seeing more professionals standing up and trying to do better, this is still a drinking culture. So going to the bar, going to parties, and hanging out with people does help with your networking. It does. People are going to go, if you were that person who stopped by the booth and we had a cool conversation with, you're the person that showed up at the party and we had a good time with. That changes how likely they are to hire you as an editor or as a freelancer or as an artist.
Probably.
So, I mean, there is sometimes valid. I mean, we used to joke about this at the CCP, but there was a certain amount of parties that everyone in the company would go to that you were not told was company mandated, but you should show up for a couple of hours.
Right.
And that's kind of but then that's not uncommon. So, I mean, there's a Geek and Sundry party at Gen Con that, I'm going to try to show up for an hour or so.
I went to the one
at
PAX and it was really fun. And if you want to get me into the Geek and Sundry one at Gen Con, I'm not going to say no.
Well, last year, so last year I got a free ticket to go and I couldn't go because of all the stuff that was going on. And because I was flying in from Ireland, I had so much to pack into a shorter time period. This year, I didn't get a free ticket. I had to pay for my ticket to go
okay.
to kind of get in because they're doing it differently. They're organizing it differently, and that's fine. I'm not going to ask for a free ticket all the time. But that to me, that's an investment of money and time because I have a lot of friends at Geek and Sundry. They were extremely supportive of Pugmire, and I want to support their endeavors.
Yeah, totally.
So I mean, it's one of those things that it does. These kinds of things are fun. Don't get me wrong. I love working the booth. I love talking to people. I love doing panels. I love going to parties. I love going out drinking with my peers. Mm-hmm. I enjoy that experience because like I said, it's time we don't get to see them very often. And also sometimes a lot of great conversations. It's a great way to recharge your batteries after a year of the internet telling you how much you suck.
I don't think the internet tells me how much I suck so far. So
not yet. Give it time.
I'm just not quite on either of y'all's level, like career wise yet. So it's very like, I I haven't gotten the hatred. Like, I've had a couple people, tell me I'm good on the podcast. That's nice to hear. But I don't get much feedback in general from what I do. It's partially because I don't write. So it's like,
I think it is part of it.
People aren't telling me that my editing is awesome or crap or whatever because they didn't see the previous product anyway.
Oh, it's something to aspire to.
Being told that I'm crap.
Yeah.
Great.
The Onyx Path presence at Gen Con is going to be interesting this year. Or, sorry, it is interesting. It's enthralling. It's intriguing. We're already there, remember?
Yeah, it's been amazing for the past couple days.
Yeah, because we have some announcements to make. It gives us the opportunity to directly interface, as people like to say, with our customers, whether we're running demos at the booth or simply selling them product. Just the idea of customers being able to come up to the creators of the games they love and being able to speak to them and get our opinions and share their ideas is lovely. I think there's a misconception that you can't go up and talk to them about the game or talk to us about the game because everyone's heard the story about the role player who wants to tell you about his character. But at the same time, we're partly in this industry because we're huge fans of the games. So taking a very small amount of time out to say why you love Werewolf the Forsaken and why you've stopped by the Onyx Path booth and why you support us as a company is excellent to hear. It recharges us, it energizes us, makes us want to carry on doing what we do. If it was just a market stall where all we were doing was selling books and we had no personal connection to the customers, it would be far less enjoyable.
Right.
And for all the angst and agony that goes around attending a big convention, because there is undoubtedly some stress, because we need to get it right, there's a hell of a lot of good stuff that comes with it too. And it's the little stories you can take away from meeting people who have been playing your game for years, or those who have had life-changing experiences as a result, or just simply, I heard about this book, I got really excited about it, I'm going to buy it and I'm going to run this game for my players. Something as simple as that is what it's lovely to hear.
Also, like, don't be afraid to ask people to sign things if you want them to.
Oh god, no.
Like, even though I still feel a little awkward about signing things, just because it's the first time in my life that I've been asked for my autograph, like, I'm happy to do so. If you are trying to get, every single person that works on a book, I'm in a lot of them. Just because of the nature of what I do. Matthew and Eddy are both in a lot of them for the same reason. So it's like, feel free to ask people to sign stuff if you want it signed. But also, like, if you don't want stuff signed, that's also fine. We're happy to talk. We're happy to draw on your stuff. We're happy to, talk to you about pretty much any books that we worked on and some books that we didn't. I'll talk about a lot of books I didn't work on because I still think they're good books.
Right. And also, one thing to think about, particularly from an Onyx Path perspective, some shows, this hasn't been true, and some clients has been true, but when I go to Gen Con for Onyx Path, there's usually a lot of people that want to talk with us. And so if we have a chat and they go, thank you so much, I have to get going, maybe there's somebody else that needs to talk to us, has been waiting patiently, or we have some booth business to take care of, or we have a meeting or a panel to go to, or a demo to run. Just because we kind of wrap you up and cut you short doesn't mean that we don't want to hear you. It doesn't mean we aren't interested in what you're saying. It's that we may have other stuff going on to make sure everyone gets as much attention as possible.
Mm-hmm. Matthew, were you going to say something?
I was, but Eddy has pretty much covered it because we're symbiotic like that.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
We basically share one brain.
I grew out the back of his head, but I am now my own entity. It's just occasionally we share a thought. But
you started in like a Professor Quirrell, Harry Potter, Voldemort kind of thing?
Well, I was more thinking like a Zeus or Janus thing, but yeah, why not? We'll be Professor Quirrell. I was clearly the Voldemort face on the back of Eddy's Quirrell.
Obviously.
I always felt a bit bad for Quirrell. Because going off on another tangent, so I read all the Harry Potter books. A lot of people have, and
really,
yeah,
I thought they were like a niche thing. All right,
so I remember, because obviously when they all came out, I was quite a bit younger. But I remember, I guess it was the third book or so that said something like, Defense Against the Dark Arts teachers only survived one term before disappearing or dying horribly.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I remember, but one of the characters talks about how Quirrell was an awful Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, which means he was a Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher before he was the Defense Against Dark Arts teacher for Harry, presumably. So, continuity error. But anyway, my point, other than being a Harry Potter geek, is I assume before he went to that forest in Albania or wherever it was that he picked up Voldemort's head, that he was actually a decent teacher. I don't know which house he was in, or whether he was as nervous and jittery as he was as we came to know him. He's a very minor character, but I've started on this tangent. What do you think, Dixie?
I did not think that much about Professor Quirrell, honestly, aside from the fact that I think he actually searched out and found Voldemort, so I think he was kind of not a great guy already.
See, I thought he was searching for maybe the Philosopher's Stone, but possibly not Voldemort. But I guess it doesn't matter.
So, you know how in past episodes where Dixie's like, I have no idea if you guys talk about the wrestling thing? Now I know how that feels.
Really? You have not read Harry Potter?
No, I have not.
Well,
I read the first book and that was it.
Which is fine.
Yeah, no judgment here, you bloody heathen.
Right, yeah. It's a slight judgment.
No, he actually went out to... I'm looking this up because I was curious.
Okay.
He went out in search of Voldemort because he thought he could achieve recognition for finding him and could learn things that would ensure no one ever laughed at him again. So he was just a pathetic nerd that got bullied and then decided to make the absolute worst deciation when it came to avenging himself.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, alas, poor Quirrell. We knew him, Horatio.
Anyhow, well, at least if you only read the first book, Eddy, we're discussing a character that you have come across.
I recognize names, and also again, kind of similar to your wrestling observations. That's one thing that I noticed is that it's so much in pop culture that I know who Voldemort is. I've played like games that are based on Harry Potter, so it's like I know enough of the texture of the story that I get context. But I don't know details because I've not actually read the books. So it's kind of those I kind of know what's going on, but also not entirely.
Of course, you're supposed to pronounce his name Voldemort. The T is supposed to be silent, isn't it?
Yes, I know, but they didn't do it in the movies, so...
Yeah, so screw it.
We Americans are too stupid to know what a Philosopher's Stone is, apparently, so,
yes, Yeah, and screw it sounds like a character from Harry Potter as well.
Possibly a house elf. I'm going to...
Before you terminate...
I'm trying to wrap up this podcast.
You may well...
It will never happen.
It may well be that we have another meeting in 25 minutes, but I just have a very quick convention question.
Okay.
So, aside from the fact that we're already there as it were, what are you most looking forward to about this year's Gen Con, Dixie?
Oh gosh. I mean, I look forward to the same thing at every convention, and that's seeing everybody that I don't get to see. Like, especially working from home, working remotely, the fact that you're, usually in England, Matthew. I don't get to see my coworkers, and I like my coworkers, and I get along with my coworkers. I have a lot of freelancers that I get along with, a lot that I don't get to see. So the games are fun. The actual, big hall that we're in is super fun. We're at booth 501, by the way. It's all super fun. But yeah, like for me, it's socialization. Like it's getting to see all you folks. It's getting to have dinner with like you guys and Rich, and seeing everybody, everyone that we never get to see. All the other people that I work with. Like I'm actually going to a Fantasy Flight meetup at some point because I do some work for them, and I've only met them face to face very briefly once, so that's fun too. What about you, Eddy?
So I have two answers to that. The first one, the more professional answer, is similar to yours. I get a chance to see everybody that face to face, because having Skype meetings once a week is nice, but it's not the same thing as actually being in the same physical space, someone and just chatting and enjoying themselves.
Right.
And And also, I'm looking forward to the fact that we're going to record some episodes at Gen Con together, the three of us.
If we can figure out times.
if we can figure out times, yes. But we are planning to record at least a couple of episodes there, and also try to record the What's Up with Onyx Path panel. So we'll put those into, if everything goes well, if technology cooperates, we'll put those into the feed. I'm looking forward to that. But the professional thing aside, I am looking forward to also, I really enjoy talking with fans.
Yes.
Even though I'm introverted, even though I made this snide comment earlier about being hated on the internet, the fact of the matter is having people come up and say, I really love what you do, is incredibly validating. It fills up my tank for a whole year to just hear people say, thank you for the work you do. I really enjoy this game. My kids really enjoy this game. My husband really loves this game. My friends really enjoy this game. Really helps me to kind of get through and realize these are the people I make these games for.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Matthew?
Probably the wrestling. No, I just needed to add another wrestling reference because we've been very loose on the wrestling.
I know.
Are you guys going to wrestle at Gen Con?
No, we're not. We're not.
No, I was recently wrestled at a LARP convention without consent. I'll add it. I did not enjoy it. So there you go. Consent is important, audience. But the thing I'm most looking forward to, aside from the things you've already mentioned, are reactions to announcements. Because Onyx Path have got a few, and I intend to be there when they're made. And I look forward to hearing and seeing what people have to say about it, and seeing the reaction afterwards on the forums, on Facebook, and on our blog.
Yeah.
It's always exciting to hear about new releases and see how it sparks off our fans' imaginations. And so, I'm always looking forward to the next big release.
Totally.
And also, I know that you're always interested in cosplay, because every time we try to go out to dinner or a meeting, you're always distracted every 5 minutes.
That happened once.
For cosplay.
And that was an excellent Wario costume.
It was an excellent Wario, I will give you that. But we're trying to get out the door.
Fine, I'll ignore Wario this time. If he throws a shell at you, you have it on your own head.
Literally, because it'll be
fun. Yeah. Wah! I think is the.
Okay, so I'm gonna herd you cats toward the end of this podcast. Matthew, where can they find you on the internet?
Here and there. I'm
just hanging out, man.
Yeah.
You've totally broken down since I made a Harry Potter reference.
I know, well, yeah. You opened this Pandora's box, Dixie. The Gentleman Gamer on the Onyx Path Forum, the Gentleman Gamer on YouTube, and Clack Click Bang on Twitter. Excellent.
Eddy?
You can find me just about most any social media website at Eddy Fate, EDDYFATE, or at Pugsteady, PUGSTEADY. You can also find me at eddyfate.com or pugsteady.com.
Excellent. You can find me on most social media as Dixie Cyanide. You can find us at theonyxpath.com, the Onyx Path on Twitter. You can find the podcast on Google Play, iTunes, wherever you get your fresh, hot podcasts. If you get us through iTunes or any other one that has a rating system, please rate and review us if you get a chance. I'm probably going to keep making these anyway, because frankly we like talking to each other, and I like that this counts as work for part of my day.
Yeah, we get paid for this. Hooray.
Don't tell them. They'll expect a higher quality of podcast.
You don't get paid a lot for this.
I don't know. I'm having fun. That's
No, it's wonderful.
We're just here to have fun and talk to each other.
We would have these conversations if we weren't recording them, let's be honest.
I'm expecting the one comment on the blog now, well, maybe if your in-house developers spent less time podcasting and more time developing books, X wouldn't be delayed. So, this is your fault.
Yes.
But now that you've called that out, if anybody makes that comment,
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. Anyhow, time to actually wrap this up. If you're at Gen Con, please come say hello. If you're at Gen Con, why the hell are you listening to this podcast? There's so much more to do. Leave your hotel room. As always, many worlds, one Pathcast.